At this point, I'm going through serious Marvel withdrawals, thanks to no new Marvel movies in what seems like 54 years. Yes, we have the Disney Plus shows now, but all those have done is make me think everything I see is Mephisto while I cry in the corner and listen to the all-screaming goat version of Agatha all along while I wait for the movies to come back.
Okay,
Right?
you made your point. Just sit down, okay?
No, here's my point. You don't...
Alright, maybe I need to remember all the good times we've had so far.
As far as I'm concerned, that's America's ass.
Today's video is all the iconic Marvel moments in Phase 2. Did your favorite moment make the list? Let's find out right now.
Shut the front door.
It's easy to forget sometimes that the Avengers are people too. Well, mostly. One's an Asgardian god, and there are a few aliens in the group now, but you get what I mean.
Ant-Man.
There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man?
It's sometimes difficult to look at them in anything other than a hero light. We're watching 2-hour movies with these characters where they have to be in crisis mode almost the entire time. But we can't forget that they enjoy downtime just like the rest of us. That's why the group hangout after party in Avengers Age of Ultron is so great. It's hands down the best scene in an overall clunky movie because it shows these superheroes just relaxing a bit and cutting loose. Everything about this scene works, especially when they all start trying to lift Thor's hammer. It builds beautifully. A simple jab from Hawkeye saying it's a trick encourages Thor to invite him to give it a try. What follows next is clip after clip of all the characters giving their best attempt with no feasible results. And everyone is on fire in this scene. Tony's cockiness by jokingly asking if he'll rule Asgard if he can lift it is great, but so is Thor's nonchalant yes of course, which foreshadows just how funny Thor can actually be. You have Tony and Rhodey working together, you have Bruce almost hulking out, you have Natasha casually saying she doesn't need that question answered, and then of course you have Cap's try at the hammer. When he pulls, it budges just a little, and the look on Thor's face is priceless. But he's overall relieved when he sees Cap can't move it. But of course there is endless debate about whether Cap knew he could lift it and just didn't to spare Thor's feelings.
You're all not worthy.
Anthony Russo said that yes, Cap could lift it here but chose not to, and seeing Cap's expression, I could see that being true. Guardians of the Galaxy was a total surprise. It was one of the first MCU movies to shake up the Marvel formula and successfully built a team that included a talking raccoon and a giant tree. How cool is that? And being such a quirky team, it's only fitting that they beat the bad guy in a totally unique and memorable way. Because every other MCU movie ends with a big CGI spectacle fight. Sometimes there's some sort of big skybeam involved, you know what I'm talking about. And Guardians of the Galaxy has that too, don't get me wrong. Its big aerial battle as Xandar's forces clash with Ronan is the type of exciting space adventure we show up for Marvel movies for. But of course, things aren't that easy. Ronan's ship crashes to the surface, and Ronan is literally inches away from destroying the entire planet. All he has to do is touch his staff to the ground, but first he has to get through Star-Lord and his amazing dance moves. That's right, Star-Lord challenges Ronan the Accuser to a dance-off. It's ridiculous, hilarious, and just mind-bogglingly stupid. But guess what? It totally works. All that really needs to be done is to distract Ronan long enough for Rocket to rebuild the laser, and the dancing really throws Ronan off. Like, seriously. His "What are you doing?" is one of my favorite line readings of the entire movie for its just utter lack of comprehension. It's just long enough for Rocket to make his move and Peter to grab the stone, leading to the second best superhero name drop of "We're the Guardians of the Galaxy," right behind
I am Iron Man.
Everything about this finale works, and the dance-off makes it iconic. Iron Man 3 was all about Tony throwing himself into his work to distract from his PTSD and to further prepare for the big one. We knew that Tony built a ton of suits, and we were hoping it would lead to something truly epic. And not one to shy away from grand gestures, Tony did not disappoint. The finale of Iron Man 3 sees Tony and Rhodes up against an army of extremist soldiers, and things are looking dire. Will our heroes soon be at the mercy of these fiery villains? Of course not, because backup is here, and it's just not any backup, Tony's whole Iron Legion. Watching all of Tony's suits fly into battle to assist our heroes is a true delight for any Iron Man fan out there. And really, aren't we all Iron Man fans at that point? You not only see Tony get to amass his Iron Legion, but you get to see all the different types of suits he's designed. It's definitely hard to pick a favorite, but I like Igor, the weight-bearing armor that comes in clutch to steady the whole rig. mainly because it looks like an early version of the Hulkbuster, doesn't it? The only bad thing about this moment is that it was partially ruined with the Iron Man 3 trailers, but hey, when you have a moment as marketable as this, you use it. As Hawkeye tells Wanda, look, the city is flying, we're fighting an army of robots, and I have a bow and arrow. Stay in here, you're good, but if you step out that door, you are an Avenger. That's the paraphrasing of Hawkeye's inspirational speech to Scarlet Witch. Sorry, I mean Wanda. We can't call her superhero name until WandaVision. This happens at the end of Age of Ultron, and it all leads up to the iconic moment where Wanda steps outside, fully ready to embrace her hero calling and start fighting for the side of good. She's officially an Avenger at this stage. I think this is a retroactive iconic moment, because sure, it meant a lot when the movie came out, of course, but I think that whole exchange and her decision to fight is even more impactful now given everything we know. She's choosing to fight as an Avenger, but it also sets her on the path to lose her brother, set off civil war, and lose her true love Vision like 6 or 7 times. Being a hero isn't easy, and you have to wonder if Wanda could go back in time and decide to not step outside that door. You think she would? I don't know. At her core, Wanda is a hero, and I think she would still decide to step out, don't you? Before we begin, would anyone like to get out? Captain America the Winter Soldier is in many people's top Marvel movies, and for good reason. On top of being a great superhero movie, it's also a tense political thriller filled with conspiracies and pretty epically staged and directed by the Russo brothers. It's no wonder they were basically handed the keys to the MCU when they can deliver iconic moments like the elevator fight scene. It's such an innovative, close combat fight between Cap and a ton of Hydra agents that's epic on so many levels. The build-up is tense, and the really great thing is how it lets Cap not only be smart in recognizing what's about to happen, but also get in a solid quip before the beatdown begins. If Captain America didn't become your favorite MCU hero just in this moment, then I think you're a Hydra agent in disguise. And I don't know about you, but this made me immediately untrustworthy of elevators. Ant-Man has always served as a bit of a palate cleanser for the MCU. The first film came after the big Age of Ultron team-up as sort of a fun epilogue in terms of Phase 2. It was relatively low stakes, and with the always hilarious Paul Rudd as the titular tiny hero, you know that you were in for some laughs. And although Ant-Man at this time probably didn't compare to the likes of the other big heroes, his first movie is a lot of fun.
I know you know a lot of super people, so thanks for thanking of me.
And it gave us one of the most iconic moments in Phase 2. It's not uncommon for films to have a lot of exposition in order to get the audience up to speed on what's happening, but Ant-Man found a way to make things informative and hilarious with the addition of Scott's best friend, Luis. You see, Luis has the gift of gab, which means he can talk. A lot. Besides all the tiny superhero action, the most iconic scenes are Luis explaining events. It's shot in unique and hilarious ways, and ever since, there's been calls for Luis to recap the events of the MCU. Hey, I'd be down. Loki is a fan-favorite character for a reason. Sure, he's dabbled in villainy, but Tom Hiddleston has given the character such charm and charisma that he's hard not to like. Plus, his motivations in the early movies were tragically understandable. He had a complicated upbringing and just wanted to be both in power and to show Odin how worthy he was to lead everything. But of course, that all backfired. Thor: The Dark World, while no one's favorite MCU movie, did give us an even more sympathetic Loki as he grappled with the loss of his mother. And by the end of the film, it looks like the god of mischief had bitten the dust permanently. But come on, this is Loki we're talking about. Of course he had a trick up his sleeve. The Dark World ends with Odin giving his son a nice pep talk before Thor walks out of the room and Odin suddenly shifts into the devious Loki. It's such an awesome visual to end on and opened up a ton of possibilities of where the story could go next. Of course, later movies would make this more of a joke, but at the end of Thor 2, Loki had finally gotten literally everything he wanted. In both Captain America the First Avenger and The Avengers, Cap has been portrayed as sort of a nice guy. Innocent in a world that didn't believe in his ideals anymore type of thing. But if anyone thought Cap was too nice or didn't have enough grit in The Avengers, then just watch the opening of Captain America the Winter Soldier, which consists of Cap and his strike team descending on the Lemurian star to rescue it from pirates. If I had to explain it in just a few words, it's brutal. Cap dispatches a lot of the men with such bone-crushing efficiency it will make your jaw drop. Is this the same Cap? But this whole rescue sets the stage for the rest of the movie and turns the Captain America franchise into something else completely. I think everyone was a little concerned about how Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be tone-wise. I remember many people were even talking about how it could be the MCU's first major flop. But the film defiantly defied expectations and embraced its quirky and weird nature. Case in point, Star-Lord's introduction. During the title sequence, we see Peter Quill listening to his trusty audio player and dancing around to Come and Get Your Love. This moment immediately establishes a few things. It sets the tone for the whole movie, it tells us a lot about Star-Lord's character, and it confirms that Guardians of the Galaxy is going to have an amazing soundtrack. What more could you want? It's probably the best opening introduction scene and the title card scene the MCU has ever done. And of course, this scene is even funnier after Endgame when you see Nebula and Rhodey commenting on how much of an idiot Peter Quill is while watching him dance. Hail Hydra. Sorry, I'm just practicing just in case CBR is revealed to be secretly taken over by Hydra. I mean, it already happened over at Screen Rant, so I just want to be sure. Anyways, there's a moment where the face of the MCU changes forever, and that's the Hydra reveal in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We obviously knew the government was bad in the movie, but we had no idea the true depths of corruption. Turns out, for decades, Hydra had been slowly infiltrating S.H.I.E.L.D. and were finally ready to make their grand return. Hearing Arnim Zola explain the subterfuge to Cap and Black Widow is jaw-dropping, and we even get our first glimpse that Bucky may have been the one to kill the Starks. It's definitely a game-changing, iconic moment. Plus, on another note, it completely destroyed and saved the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's kind of unfortunate that the show was just getting done with its first season when it learned that the MCU was going with, yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't going to be around anymore, but I think the show using that twist to completely reshape itself and some of its characters was the best possible thing to happen to it. Alright, I've talked about Guardians of the Galaxy's ending and I've talked about its opening, but now let's talk about the first time we actually saw this group as a team. I'm talking about the big prison break scene that perfectly captures the crazy energy, the heart, and the humor this team is supposed to have. While discussing a very elaborate plan about how to break out, there's a perfect setup about how they're supposed to get the battery last or else everything will be chaotic. Of course, Groot doesn't hear this message and gets it first, forcing the whole team to improvise. This whole sequence is iconic for a ton of different reasons. You'll let out a few fist pumps watching Groot and Rocket fight together. You'll cheer at Dave Bautista utterly destroying a few enemies with his wrestling moves. And you'll laugh as Peter tries to get the leg that Rocket requested. It all leads up to that swelling score and the door opening to reveal the Guardians of the Galaxy standing together for the first time. It's totally epic. And hey, Rocket may have not needed the leg, but it did make for a nice weapon. Nick Fury is an interesting character in the MCU. He's so far only been in supporting roles, but every appearance he gets at least one iconic moment. I'm pretty sure that's written in Samuel L. Jackson's contract. I mean, this is the guy who asked for a purple lightsaber in Star Wars. Do you think he wouldn't ask for one epic moment in each MCU movie? In Iron Man, it's him talking about the Avenger Initiative to Tony Stark. In the Avengers, it's the shot of him using a rocket launcher. In Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it's his "you need to keep both eyes open" moment. It'll make you both love and scared of Fury's fury here. Get it? Fury's fury? Okay, moving on. The evil Alexander Pierce tried to have Fury killed, forcing the super spy to fake his death. Pierce then wiped Fury's retinal scan from the system, but of course you can't pull a fast one on Nick Fury. He made sure that a secret login was accessible using his eye-patched eye, which helped the Avengers save the day at the end. Hey, it almost makes being scratched by a Flurkin worth it, right? Fury should be thanking Goose. Didn't see that coming, did ya? Quicksilver's death in Age of Ultron is a bit of a tricky subject. On one hand, it's kind of cheap to have the big character death be a hero we've barely spent any time with. That kind of feels like a cop-out, don't you think? But in actuality, the way they built to this scene is rather clever. Throughout the whole movie, it seemed like Hawkeye was gonna die. They totally revamped his character after a rough first appearance and were telling him things like, "Clint, you're the heart of this team and we need you around." Throw in the introduction of his secret farm life for maximum heartbreak and Jeremy Renner's comment about wanting to be killed off, and it all adds up to Hawkeye dying in Age of Ultron. But that's not what happens. Quicksilver sacrifices himself to save Hawkeye and a young civilian after a fun rivalry throughout the film. It's the first time an official Avenger dies, so it's iconic. Sure, he's only an Avenger for like a few minutes, but it counts. And sure, it's a little weird that Quicksilver didn't use his speed to also get behind the car or, you know, just move out of the way, but hey, it is what it is. I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot, I'm Groot. Sorry, I was just practicing my Groot. Apologies for the profanity. Anyways, I've mentioned a lot of iconic moments in Guardians of the Galaxy so far, ranging from epic to hilarious, but the last one I want to mention is the one that tugs at your heartstrings the most. It's Groot's huge sacrifice. Ronin's ship is crashing and all seems lost for the Guardians. Cue the heartfelt music as Groot slowly starts encasing his new family with his vines and branches, much to Rocket's dismay. You see, this act will kill Groot, and Rocket keeps asking him why he's doing it. Groot says the iconic, "We are Groot." Okay, seriously, if you told me in 2014 that a tree that sounded like a gravelly Vin Diesel and could only say one sentence could make me tear up, I'd have called you insane. But now, that moment is just so good. We are Groot indeed. When Captain America the Winter Soldier was first announced, we sort of knew exactly who Cap would be facing. It wasn't exactly a secret that the titular Winter Soldier was actually Bucky Barnes, who survived his swan dive off that train. You see, Bucky was rescued by the Russians, then was basically brainwashed to become a top assassin, eventually setting him on a collision course to fight his former best friend. And we know he meant serious business from his first introduction. In a moment that became the most buzzworthy talking point in the trailer, Cap pursues the Winter Soldier and chucks his shield at him, only for the Winter Soldier to turn around and catch it midair. It's a gasp-inducing moment for a few reasons. One, it shows that, yeah, the Winter Soldier is a serious threat, but it's also a fun comic call-out since Bucky has carried the shield himself in the comics. Man, Captain America the Winter Soldier is just awesome, don't you think?